Ah, there we are. Okay, so I was muted, which is nice. I should have checked that. Apparently that's because if I mute myself in one scene, it will mute itself in every scene, which is not what I expected OBS to do. So I mute myself when I'm recording, right? So I have a different recording scene for that. And there my microphone was muted, so it was also muted here. So sorry for the confusion. I'll just go over what I said quickly again, and I'll probably edit this stream to trim out the first bit. So today we're doing sound design requests. People have sent me requests to cover, and I'm just going to cover them, and we're going to look at specific sounds, how they were made, and try to recreate them. They're not always going to be perfect, but we'll try our best to get as close as possible. The other thing that we're going to do after we've done these things, if there's enough time left, is some atmospheric sound design. So it's the other project. You guys, if you're regulars in this stream, you'll probably know that I try to make some sounds, some atmospheric sounds every stream. And we're constructing a sample pack through that, which is going to be available once it's finished for purchase. So the first sound that we're going to listen to and try to recreate is this bassline sound here. And then the second one will be the bassline of this track here. Just getting you familiar with the track. The third one is this acid sound that sits in here. Which also was a request. It requested a bassline, but I wouldn't consider that a bassline because there is no actual bass frequencies. You could say that, but I don't think it's an actual bassline. The terminology is not important. It's just the sound itself. So then finally, the final bassline that we'll, or the final sound that we'll look at is this bassline here, where the emphasis is on the randomness of each note. So each sound sounds similar but not exactly the same, and the question was, how do you achieve that similar but not the same sounding effect? Flashes. Thank you for joining. I don't know what that means. I Cannot translate my chat, I think. Translate to English. Yeah, no, that's not working. It just says I really want to. Can I turn that off? Selected language, English. Is there a way to remove that? That's unfortunate. I'm sorry if I cannot understand you, but please try speaking in English if that helps. Or if you're able to, then we'll be able to communicate, hopefully. I don't know what language that is, so I won't be able to say, well, I don't speak whatever language that is, but obviously I don't speak it, because otherwise I would just answer you. But let's get into this. Let's start with just the first baseline. And I was talking about what I was seeing in the waveform, just looking at this final note. And the first thing that I noticed is that there's a lot of differences between the top waveform and the bottom. Just like looking at them there, you can see there's a lot of stereo separation going on. And there's this fun thing where now that I'm noticing here, there is not as much difference. Like the general thing what the waveform is doing is pretty similar, but and for example also here it's even clearer here. But then here there's this weird thing where the click goes forward, and just by doing a little bit of a measurement, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit. It seems to me that it's going it's almost like one is going forward and the other is going backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit. Yeah, no, it's okay. I think it's just being delayed. Hello, my Logify, how are you doing? Welcome. So that's interesting. There's a cool, weird kind of stereo process going on where there's added delay into it. Almost like, right? Because you can still see a little spike here, which is similar between the two channels, but then there's one there and one there for the higher frequencies, I think. Just zooming out, that looks like the higher frequencies to me. But even this doesn't really make sense. We can do some measurements here. Let's add in another audio track. And what I'm looking at is the relationship between the clicks here. I'm just going to cut out some of these first clicks and we can see what's going on. If I place this right next to here, we should see where these clicks line up, right? Which doesn't make any sense to me. So one is going forward and the other is going backward. And then there's a little bit of a delay on both the try and the, or both on the lower frequency click thing that I'm seeing here. What's the note? Let's see. I have it translate automatically to English for you. I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing your name, if that's the case. So that's an F#1. That's the note. I'm thinking of just focusing on this single note here, see if we can get that to work. Let's place down a note here that we can work with. So it's F#1. Sounds a little bit like it has a little bit of resonance. Obviously this is going to be a 1/8 note, and we're just going to set up a basic envelope like this. There's a lot more that needs to be done. Get that resonance out a bit with the tube distortion maybe. I do kind of like that. So let's do some phasing, which I like to do with Vitamin. So this is now mono, and I'm going to stereonize it in a little bit, make it stereo later. But everything coming out of the synth is going to be mono, right? What I like in these cases is to, when I'm doing these kinds of edits, get an extra track in there and just record what I'm doing so I can see the waveform. And I'll have this down there. Let's do it like this. Give this some extra space as well. Rito, how are you doing? I'm doing pretty good. I'm a bit tired, but other than that, I'm doing fine. Okay. So I can just record this. And I want this to be a bit bigger as well so I can see the waveform there. We're already getting some of that phasing that you like to see, but we want a bit more, I think, so. Keep tuning these, maybe. We have a problem here. So we need to set our phase so it always re-triggers. I arrived a little late. You didn't miss anything. We just started. So I was also a little bit late with the stream, so we're just starting. No problem here. Let's record this again. Now we can see our actual effects. Okay, so it does look like we need some more phase shift. You can see there's a lot more phase shift going on there than in our sound. So that's the first thing. Let's try just adding a different plugin to it. M Dynamics is a good one as well, although it's pretty big. I can close this up and go into edit mode and make it a bit smaller so we can see what's going on. I think if I temporarily do, let me just mess with this a bit. I'll add another audio track because I want to show everything here. Right, so also this, and now we can record. We should probably set this to 1, so no processing is being applied. I'll be back in a bit if you're still streaming. I'll probably will. We'll see how it goes. If there's any crashes, then obviously not, but we're not hoping for it. Okay, we can use this to do a little bit of expansion, maybe. Make sure that it's not on link. And we're just going to give it. The slightest bit of click there. And I'll also bring out this one a bit. Not too much. Like that, I think. I think part of the problem here is that this has attack. Now the transient should be more defined. Let's turn this off again. We don't need more. Yeah. So now our transient is going to be defined more, and this is going to cause problems. Okay, let's just make it a whole bunch louder. A quick all the time. That's nice. It's always good to have some food at home. What if I just output more volume here? Yeah. Okay, it's looking pretty close. You see the similarities in the waveform there, in the characteristics, right? So now we need to implement, I think, a little bit of extra high-end sound. Part of it is that it almost looks like it's going down right in frequency. Like this is less than 2. How is it here? That's around 2. So maybe it's a little bit pitching down. It does sound like that to me. I need to remember to close out of the spectrum. Let's do that towards the end. I think something like this. Let's turn. Okay, let's bring this up a bit. Okay, so we need to find a way to get this in there. Looking at it, it's strange because you see that there's this click here and then there's this click here, right? And then we have a click here. So it's like strange delay stuff happening. This one looks like it's before it. So what we need to do in that case to have that would be to, after 2 oscillations, get a delay that takes basically this click and the high frequencies and puts it there. So let's try to do that. We'll just turn it on right here. The camera's stuck. Yeah, that's going to happen. Let me quickly reactivate this. It's annoying, but that's just going to happen. There is something about my setup that's just not correct. We had crashes, we had the camera getting stuck all the time. It just went again. So it's highly unstable. I don't know why it's happening, but we might crash in a few minutes. Yeah, it's going again, so I'm just going to turn it off. That's very annoying, but then there will just be no camera, so that's okay, I guess. Yeah, I had a lot of problems with stream stability, like random crashes, whatever, which is just annoying to deal with. So, getting back into this, we want a high-end delay on only our left channel. So high frequencies. Let's set this to 50. And we want no feedback. Is there a way for me to just turn off one of them? I guess I could make one of them very, very long. Cannot make it short. So this one needs to be short. Let's try something here. If I set this to linked mode and set it to only the right channel or only the left channel with a utility. Obviously we have our tri-sound. We'll turn this down a bit. This goes like that and this goes to the left. Let's see what we get if we get our copies. Yeah, we get a copied extra click in there, which we can use for this. So it needs to be a little bit later. It needs to be right about there. The dry wet on this needs to be fully wet because we're now having a dry signal there. And it needs to be a little bit later. Let's try 11. Okay, so that seems to sum together there. Okay, so now it's slightly before it. We want it a bit more. So I'm just going to go to, let's say 8. Like this. Yeah, so that's doing it, right? It's keeping too many of the high, low frequencies in there. There's a little blob in there, which is definitely not what we want. So let's set this filter higher. Yeah, that's perfect. It's just adding a little bit to the waveform on the left, basically. You can maybe set it even a little bit higher because it does look like it's cleaner here than it is on our waveform. So we set it to like 3K maybe. Just an extra click there on the left side, which you can see. It should probably be a bit louder, just looking at it. It is strange to me because what it looks like almost is like the dry signal going down and the wet signal taking over. So that would mean that we will have this fully. And then here we mix between them. Like this. And then this is gonna be our white channel. Now this is probably going to sound strange, I think. Well, it is doing something. This is fully left, right? Let's see what we're doing. Yeah, it's basically taking the waveform and moving it forward like we want it to. Part of me says that the base is too open. And we can change that like this. Go like this. It's a bit closer. It might need to be a bit longer there. So have like a longer impact like it. Right, so it's moving it forward is the idea, the click. Part of my annoyance is how much click there is in this thing here. Let's see if we can get that. That will mean that there would be more filter cutoff, so just have that higher. Kind of like that. Yeah, that's getting closer. We're getting the idea. Obviously the phase is not going to be the same because that's very, very hard to get. Like you would need to get the exact same processing chain on it. But I'm a bit baffled at what I'm seeing in terms of like how this all combines, right? It's a little bit messy, obviously. But you can see the slightest amount of little peak here where this is. And it almost looked like the exact opposite to me. Right? Like I'm not entirely capable of explaining what I'm seeing. It's done in a way that what might be the case is that if we use M stereo, and we set the lower frequencies to be more mono. You get something like this. Let's listen to the... It's a bit grittier. Overall, it's almost noisy. It might be the song that's doing that. Let's get the spectrum in there. First of all, this hump isn't there, so we can do some EQing. Let's do that next. So. Sounds like that. What happens if I now just add a bit of dimension to this? Wait, sorry. It sounds like it's more than just dimension. Maybe it's like smeared. Do you hear how there's a little bit of like mid-range smearing going on? Like it's not as clean of a click on there. This is so annoying. There should be an option in Ableton that if you leave a track, all of the above things go down automatically. I think that would be a pretty useful addition to it, because just opening up a track and it just going up like that and you moving things around and stuff like that is just annoying. Like the tone is okay. I'm liking the tone, although the spectrum looks a little bit different. A little bit less stuff happening there. Something like that. Let's look at the sub. Yeah, the sub bass is okay. Although there seems to be is just that where it pitches down to the G#0. That might be what's happening here. Let's try to emulate that and see if we can get some cleaner results there. Obviously this curve isn't going to work. Something like that. I want a bit of extra smearing in it. There's a few experiments that we can do. Let's close this up, because up until now it does sound kind of nice. So I like that. One idea is to have a small, very concentrated reverb. That's never gonna sound good. Right, you can still hear. It's not the same. So it's probably some kind of stereo effect that is doing that smearing. I think my version sounds cleaner. Not to brag, but it does sound overall like there is something else on top of this, maybe like a pad or something like that, which just makes it sound weird. Another thing to consider is this attack, which looks really strange to me. We can draw in a volume curve, see if that helps. So it's looking like it's going. I'm just looking at the overall picture, but mainly this one here. I do want to emulate some of that attack in it. So it goes like down like this. And then like this, right? So set that to an 8th note envelope. Might almost be like there's a... This is something we could try. Would explain a lot here. I'm also going to remove all of the high end. It's getting pretty close. It's not the same. It's not exact. But that's pretty hard to do. You can do a final EQ to get some of that high end out like this. Clipping a bit. Let's keep that under control. In terms of getting close to the sound, I'm pretty happy with this. The only thing I want to try is see how the melody sounds. So I would need to find the C, A, G. Okay, so that's interesting. C, A, G, and then it goes down to this G sharp. Right? No, this goes. Might be too much of the stereo thing here. Okay. It's close enough, I would say. If you want to use this as a baseline or like a little fill, I would say that this works. So quickly to recap, pretty simple bass sound with this little added harmonic stuff here in the mid-range, which is detuned slightly at 4 voices, both going through a 24 dB per octave filter with a little bit of resonance, which is interesting. And then there's this curve here for the cutoff, which is modulating a little bit over the maximum, so it stays a little bit longer at fully open. And then this is doing the volume here. I can set this to do the volume here as well. That makes everything a bit more uniform. Okay, so this is the volume for both oscillators. As you can see, this one is set a lot lower than the other one. Effects, a little bit of tube distortion, and a little bit of dimension, no hyper. Then go through Vitamin, which is doing our phasing part 1, and this is doing phase in part 2, as well as some upward expansion on these higher frequencies. Going into a limiter, and it goes into this audio effect rack, which delays the left channel by a bit with regard to the right channel over all frequencies, and that effect is going up, right? We should probably set that up by all notes, I would say. It is strange to see, because here you see how here it's like this one is getting more. So it's almost like a random effect, I would say. It might be a good idea just to duplicate this over here to get that effect everywhere. I think it's some random stereonizer effect that they are using, which is hard to emulate, because this idea of the extra click coming in here, you can see here it's happening on the left side, whereas here it's happening on the right side, which is really throwing me off, right? Can probably set that like that, and we should be able to, if I take this modulation and I map this to a macro and then set the modulation on a macro, we can set a maximum real easily. I can play with the maximum here. Right around there, I would say. It does sound nice, it's not the same. It has a lot more high grittiness, I would say. Disregarding the serum, are these plugins free? No. So this is from Melda, which make very good, very interesting, very complex plugins. But it's not free. Their bundle costs a lot of money. This is Vitamin Mono, which you can probably find cheap if you're getting a good deal from Waves. So Waves often do deals on their plugins. So I got this for 20 bucks, even though it's normally priced at like 120, I think. Let me check that. Waves Vitamin, 294. It's currently on sale for 88%, so you get it for, with the Create 40 coupon, you get it for $30, which is a really good deal. But Waves have deals all the time, so you don't have to get that right now. I like this on my basslines. It sounds good, it does good phasing, and it's powerful. It makes things sound big, right? So just cleans it up nicely. Obviously in this chain, I put a lot of stuff behind it. So now me turning it off and on back, not going to represent what it was doing when I actually put it on there. But that's okay. Yeah, stereo generator, same stuff from Melda. So any Melda plugin that I use, you can see the little M up in the top left there. The stereo processor, again, Melda. This is also a great plugin. I don't know if these are free. Melda does have a free bundle. So they do release free plugins, but I'm not sure if these plugins are specifically from the free bundle, because I have just everything of them, right? The free stuff and the paid stuff. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here. How long I've been? 40 minutes. we'll try to do the next one shorter. This should be an easier sound because it's just this sustained bass line. And the thing that we're looking for is probably the harmonics in the low end. Getting those right, so... let's focus on that. I'm going to just... I quickly want a kick that we can reference this to. Drums. Get this here. And we'll duplicate this all across, and then I just need to cut out some high end to make it sound similar. I'm not looking for the exact same thing. Something like that. And then the bass line, it has this kind of weird hollow effect, which I like. It's good bass line. So again, I'm just going to zoom in on it and see what I can find. There's any weird stuff. There doesn't seem to be any transient. So what I thought would happen with the it being a sustained bass, that seems to me to be true. I did not line this up correctly. Why is that not lined up correctly? This should be higher than 155. Probably it. Let's see if that now warps correctly. It wasn't warped, or it was warped. Why did I do that? I'm sorry. And 150. Oh. Does it now loop well? No, needs to go up more. This is a bit annoying, but I do want this to be correct. Okay, so 152 for both of them, I think. Yeah, so now everything is on the grid. That's a strange BPM. 152, you don't often see that. Yeah, that's not something you often see. Let's try to get that low note. So what note is he playing? That's probably key to this. B0. Wow. That's a strange key, to say the least. Right for now it. Okay, so 1. Okay, we want that dark tone. This is just an experimentation on my part here to see what we can get. It just looks like it's going down steeply, like normally. Like there's no strange harmonic things going on. Oh, that's so annoying. So let's remove number 3 and number 2 and number 5. It almost sounds like it should be there. Or maybe, this is a good check to do. Let's see if the first and second harmonic are actually correct. So this goes to, F sharp. And then this goes to B1, which means that there should be another harmonic below here, which is turned off, which is probably where the sound is coming from. I forgot to turn that down again. Sorry. So that means that we are now playing in the correct register and that we just need to remove the lowest harmonic. Which is going to sound like shit right now. But I think if we start to do some phasing on it, we can make that sound better. So we'll just, again, fight a minute. Maybe we should just get rid of the click, maybe. Let's just mess with the Okay, let's remove some of these. That's getting pretty close. I do like that. Yeah, that's probably it in terms of the overall sound of the bass line. As I said, it's pretty easy. It did have me screw around a lot with these harmonics. So to recap, what I did is I added the harmonics like this. This was all experimental, and then I randomized the phase of each of the harmonics. So they're going to, it's just like, as you can see, a bit of a mess here. The important thing is that this first harmonic is removed because we're playing a note which is lower than our scale. So we're playing B-1, which is below the sub-bass register. So this is technically generating a note which has a frequency below what we can actually perceive, right? So below what we would say would be the sub-bass. But because we removed the first harmonic, the second harmonic is actually, or the first harmonic is actually going to play at B0, which is perfectly fine. That's a little bit high even for sidetrends. Normally you're sitting around, let's say A sharp to D sharp, in that kind of region, playing your sub bass. But that means that all of the extra harmonics are layered in here, in this first region, as opposed to the second region. So it makes it sound like the low end is warmer, which is why you get that strange sound of it. And then it's just a filter. A little bit of vitamin to give the low end some power. And then obviously you would like sidechain this to the kick. Something like that. You can make it louder. But that's how you would do that if you want to make a bass line like that. I do kind of like this idea for a bass line. It's different, but it's cool. Let's keep that open. Let's close these off because we don't need them anymore. Just go to the next one here. I'm quickly going to pour myself a drink. And it's not yet time for break. We haven't done an hour yet, so quickly get myself a nice glass of Pepsi. Stay hydrated. And now we can look at this sound here, which is this acid. I'm just going to look at note being played here. And this is a MIDI track already? No. So we want a MIDI track for our serum. I feel like it's a pretty aggressive acid, so I'm gonna get something like that. Yeah, to be honest, it just sounds like an acid lead to me. It is a little bit more bubbly than you would expect, yeah. So there's probably some strange things going on. But nothing too crazy. Like, Serum isn't the best for this, and I don't have like a real good emulation of like the TB303, which is the synth that's probably used here. But the idea is going to be that you have a filter cutoff modulation going on. Something like this. So you can experiment with things like, probably like the chorus phaser maybe, not that much. Get some of that bubbly feeling in there. Give a bit of release timing for both of them. Bit too much. Let's turn these down a bit more. Something like this, you would, if you get the melody right and get that right, but the sound design is pretty easy on this one. I don't know if you're in chat here, the person who requested this. Let me see who that was. Mr. Mick Lego. I don't know if you're here, but it should be a pretty easy one to do. What you need to keep in mind is that that acid sound comes from the fact that we're playing this at a low register, so you can see low notes there. And then we have this envelope going to the filter cutoff, the resonance, give that resonance a nice boost, and then we also have this macro on the filter cutoff, which is going to control the movement of it all. And with distortion, phaser, chorus, you can experiment a lot with where that bubbliness comes from. It might be cool to add a high delay on it for this kind of stuff, probably normal 8 notes, something like this, so you get something like that. Very little one, I would say, maybe even ping pong. But you definitely want it to go out of the way, and maybe even something like that. Let's hear again. doesn't sound like it has a delay on me, but when I would make something like this, I would like to have a delay on it. This is more of a creative input. To get closest to the sound, you would obviously just play in your melody and then get that. Is there anything particular about the melody? Not really. It's just short notes and long notes, and making sure that's on the 16th. So that's pretty easy. It was a bit more of a quicker sound. Let's do this final one, and this is where I'm a little bit scared of, because there's something about this bass line which makes every bass sound similar but not the exact same, and I'm not quite sure if it's just a I don't know, like a stereo widening thing, or if there's something special going on. It does sound wide. So let's start with just one note. See if we can make it. It's very wide actually. I'm almost tempted to just start off with detune on it, because that's where you usually get some nice width from. Get the note that we're playing. A sharp 0. Of course I need to route that second one to here. It doesn't sound too much like it has a click to it, right? Just a little bit. So maybe something like that, and then it's the stereo width that's really going to bring this sound alive. Maybe we want the phase to be later. So it just starts after that, or maybe even here. In that case. I cannot really use a stereoscope to check this, because it's going to take into account all of the track. But I do feel like the mid-range, like this area, is a lot wider in their track. Almost like this, right? And something like this. You can experiment with this. The idea comes from is that we're not starting at the click, we're starting at the start of the waveform. not going to have that click in there, which almost gives it that little bit of, I wouldn't say hardstyle, but if you know anything about like reverse bass in the hardstyle scene, like the old hardstyle kind of things, it's called reverse bass, but it often was just like an offbeat bass line. It's kind of similar to that. So if you're looking for any other materials, maybe in that area, it might be a good idea to search somewhere in there. The final thing I want to quickly experiment with is, yeah, I do think that an 18 dB per octave filter works best here. Sugar spice and everything nice. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, you can do processing or whatever you want. You might be able to do some processing here. It does look like this has some phasing. So probably some processing that's going to introduce that will make it sound better. Let's just go for the classics. This is a nice mid-range tone. Sometimes we're getting it and sometimes not. It might be. You see, I do kind of want that stereo, but I don't want it to sound like that. Right, so this also introduces some comb filtering. We don't want that. We can use maybe the expander here. I don't really know what this does, apart from obviously expanding the stereo field. It does sound pretty transparent, so I like that. Obviously with a kick it's gonna sound better, and probably with some EQing to get some more of that. Mid-range out like that. That's maybe a bit too much. You can already hear the kind of randomness that you're looking for, by the way. So this randomness comes from the fact that we're using some randomization in here. A little bit. It doesn't really show, but we're using some random phase in there. And the other thing is obviously going to be the randomness coming from the dimension expander. So using those stereonizing elements which introduces randomness between like the left and the right channel and every time it plays, and then expanding that with the stereo expander here, which I don't really know how it works, but I think you can just get away with setting a width parameter here with a utility or something like that, just making it wider. You could potentially do everything within this single plugin, where here we're just widening the higher harmonics a little bit, so the 200 to 2K range is getting more width overall than everything below and above that. Which above doesn't really matter. There shouldn't be too much stuff there, I think. Yeah, there's a little bit, but not too much. But that just makes sure that the width really sits more in the higher frequencies and not so much in the lower frequencies. Although they're not mono, the low frequencies here, which is strange. I do like the sound of them. It's a pretty cool track. Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. You can experiment with this, I think. But this kind of bass sound, yeah, it comes from the stereo processing that you're gonna do on them. What time is it? It's 1 hour in my stream. I'll take a quick break, as always, and then we'll go do atmospheric sound design for a bit. I might do also some production, so don't leave. I'll take a quick 10-minute break, and I'll put you guys on a nice track so you have something to listen to, as always. What am I going to let you listen to? Do you want to listen to the same old thing again? I don't think so, right? So we go for this one. No, actually, let's go for this one. Let me know what you think about this track. This track that I haven't really shown off on stream before, but it's an interesting track nonetheless. So I'll have you listen to it. This is not warped. Perfect. I'll be right back.
Einstein's relativity. Time going slower. Gravitational redshift. Time dilation. Einstein's relativity. Time going slower. Gravitational redshift. Time dilation. Einstein's relativity. Time going slower. Gravitational redshift. Time dilation. Einstein's relativity. Time going slower.
Here the track is a bit unfinished. It's just for me to show off that lead. There's a little section here with the kick and bass. So let's just play that out and then we'll get into atmospheric sound design. Thank you for the compliment. I'm glad you like the track, by the way. It's always nice to see people reacting positively to the things that you're making. So, I'm going to open up Add Sound Design, which is really misnamed. I really misnamed the project, but that doesn't really matter. I'm wondering if me not having a camera is actually the problem, because the camera is with like the crashes and stuff, because the camera is doing weird things and just not working. Especially today, when I reactivated it, it immediately froze. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it's a driver issue. Maybe I need to update my driver for the cam link specifically. I need some time to, I think, load these. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's gonna need some time. It's probably rendering all of these other ones in here. It's not rendering anything. It's not doing anything. It's showing me. Oh wait, there we are. It's slowly rendering each individual track. It's strange that it's taking so. Maybe because I am streaming now. But once I click one, it's. I've never had this happen. That's strange. Well, this doesn't really matter. As long as we can see those, then it's okay. That other stuff is old anyway. Chinese camera, probably. I don't think it's the camera, because the camera itself is continuously, like, the camera itself is turned on, and when I'm like recording videos, then it's no problem. I think it's the cam link. So the way it works is that I have a camera, and then there's this HDMI cable coming out of it, and then you have the cam link, which is what converts HDMI into USB, so you can use it like a webcam. And I think there is where the problem is. It might be that the camera is maybe like not sending a signal for like a frame or something, and that's messing everything up. But I'm closer to saying that it would be something from the a problem with the cam link and my PC, just like a weird compatibility issue that's really hard to find. Maybe the port is that. Well, I changed port, and I have the energy saving on both of my USB 3 ports turned off on the back of my motherboard. So it might be that. I don't quite remember if my Psylink or the Psylink, the Camlink has always been doing that, or if it's just like a recent issue. I believe it was a recent issue because I have been streaming before and I don't remember having these issues. But I didn't do a lot of streams, so maybe it just didn't happen then, and there's this weird condition that just randomly makes it happen. But I'm going to try to ignore it and just try to be as entertaining as I can without a camera. So for this one, let's do another short atmosphere here. So if you're unfamiliar with what we're doing here, is I'm building this sample pack of atmosphere sounds, right? So this is in C, here's everything in A sharp, and that's how far we've gotten. To D sharp, I have some stuff in G, and that's it. So this is really where I'm going to do a few more samples here, so get up to like 40 maybe, and then we'll go and do stuff in D sharp. And this is just for me to like really experiment with sound design, create cool things, create cool ideas, and doing crazy stuff. So this whole setup is all these MIDI tracks go through this effect chain here, which is adding ambience to it. So just the saw wave through it sounds like this, right? Very reverbery, very delay-ish. And then we record that out on its own track. We check if everything is correct, if it sounds the way I want it to sound, if the waveform looks the way I want it to look. And then we drag it over to our sample library and just drop it in. So let's just go into the sound design here, I guess. Can do some doesn't make sense to have this like that. We can go, say, almost to like a weird triangle. That's pretty cool. And then we'll let's keep it harmonic. Let's do phase disperse. I like that more. Although it's not moving it enough for me. We could do a little bit of folding on this. Just go maybe like that. Or maybe we want to have that fold right there. So we'd be doing something like this, right? Let's just play this and see what we get. Kind of strange how quickly it goes up to the high end towards the end. It might be cool to add some just like high-end saw wave under it and have that go to maybe like that, have a little bit of that extra noise in there. Something like this, maybe. Oh, I'm recording on the wrong track. I do like that in terms of the sound, but also looking at the waveform, which is one thing that I always check. It does look good to me. And the way I kind of do that is I want my atmospheres to progress to a point. So this is just going up until like here-ish, which is not ideal. You probably want it more defined on the fourth bar itself. But this is definitely something that within music, if you warp it correctly and you put it correctly into the like timeline and playlist, right? Then it's going to be okay, I think. Like you can make this work within a track, in the sense that, for example, same as here, it builds up until this point and then it goes down. So within a 4-bar section, it makes sense that it kind of stops here and just reverberates out, right? And maybe I have a better example of that. I don't think there. But yeah, you can see all of them kind of fade out after a certain length, which is tied to the amount of bars that are playing. And I would say, yeah, that's true for most of them. So that's kind of what I'm looking for with these atmosphere sounds, is that within the bar structure of a track, they would make sense. Do I make cinematic atmospheres too? Not for this pack. So this pack is really the psychedelic atmosphere thing. So I'll play a few of them. The psychedelic dark kind of style. We also have some brighter ones, I think. Stuff like this as well. This is cinematic-ish, not Hans Zimmer, but you could definitely use this as a cinematic sound, right? So yeah, it's focused more on psychedelic sound design, because obviously making psytrance, that's kind of what we want. 21, yeah. The cool thing about this being in C and this bright stuff and stuff like that is what you can do. Let's quickly show that as an example. It being in C is really useful for sampling. So I can just go in and say take 21, drag it in here, and now I basically have this texture that I can play with. And the cool thing to do is set loop and then just turn it down and then crossfade between them, and then you can like play it as an instrument and select your own like module or what sections are going to play. We'll make this maybe even shorter, but then you play it in whatever key that you want. maybe even shorter length. You can really change it up. And that's the cool thing about it being in C, is that you don't have to do any tuning. So this is just drop it in and play. And that's the reason why I'm doing the C ones. So the other keys, A sharp, G, and G sharp, are keys that I really like, that I produce a lot in. So part of this is for me. D sharp, I know a lot of other producers like D sharp as a key. It's very widely used within psytrance because it gives a very nice dark bass line sound. Nicola, I think you know this, right? If my memory serves me correct, then Nicola is the Nicola that's Boom Boom Bessa. So I think he does a lot in D sharp. But if you just go look for psytrance sound tracks, the darker, more aggressive psytrance is going to be around that region of like D sharp, especially in the progressive side of it. Even like Vici Vini is that. Does stuff in D sharp to get the more aggressive sounds that they use. Like if they have a more aggressive track, I think The Calling, that one that they did a remix competition for, was in D sharp. And I then remixed it in G sharp, so I had to transpose everything up. Okay. Let's go down 1 octave. IFS-Dove, especially for Atmos. I don't have it. I've heard a lot, again, you talking about it, I've heard people say that it's good for ambience, mainly. So that would be Atmosphere. But I don't have any experience with it. Might be cool to do like a slow morph in here. Let's try something here. I want to do a whole bunch of unsynced low frequency LFOs and have them just create the atmosphere for me. So I'm not doing any of the modulation or automation, right? And we're going to add another wave in here. Let's set this very slow here. Go for asymmetrical. Get some of those saw harmonics back. Let's see if I record this, what comes out of it, if it has like a usable waveform. So that's a big mess. It might be a good idea to make this LFO go slower. Yeah, both of those are at 0.2. Let's have this at 0.3 and then this one at 0.4. Have it a little bit slower. And we'll do some automation on it, just a filter that opens up slightly over time. And then a slight extra volume like this. I do like how it finishes now. That does sound good. I'll give it a maybe like this, just a bit more. It's Hive is a good alternative if you have bad PC specs. Okay, I didn't know that. Looking at it, like looking at the synth itself, like I've seen pictures of it or videos of it, it looks like a pretty complicated synth. So to say that it's easy on the CPU, but maybe it's just programmed in a different way. It's built differently, as the youth would say nowadays. But that's interesting that you say that. Also, Zebra 2 is definitely the best atmosphere maker. Isn't Zebra 2 like the modular one, where you can set your or create your own synth based out of modules? I know Yuhei makes a whole bunch of different synths. I know they make, what's it called again? Brazil or something, which is like a fixed structure modular synth. So you cannot actually build with your own modules, but you can connect them. And then I thought Zebra, you could just say, like Zebra 2 would be the one that's where you can drop in like modules that you want, right? Is that the one that I'm thinking of? Zebra 2. Yeah, isn't that? You can drag in your own little modules that you want in here, right? Or if it's always, is it always the same? It might be always the same structure. No, yeah, you can see here, this is definitely different modules being used. Here we have, well, I guess these two are the same, but it looks huge, yeah. It looks massive. So there's a routing thing here with 4-track routing, and then mmap. Okay. So that's a this is modulation, and this is generation, and these are, I would assume, more settings for the different like modulators and oscillators and whatever. So okay, so there's global, there's 4 oscillators, there's an FM. Yeah, it looks way too complicated for me right now. Yeah, it's very complex. It does seem that way. Tyler, how are you doing? Nice to see you here.